Notice to the public. If you wish to address the council, please complete the public wishing to address the council form located on either end of the counter and give it to either the chairman or the council clerk prior to the beginning of the meeting. All comments must be addressed to the council as a whole. Addressing individual council members or staff is not allowed. Speakers should be courteous in their choice of words and actions, and comments shall be limited to the issue and cannot involve individuals or staff-related matters. All cell phones and electronic devices used for communication should be silenced for the duration of the meeting. I'd like to call the meeting of the Terrebonne Parish Council of Wednesday, July 10th, 2024 to order. We will have the invocation and pledge of allegiance by Councilman Kevin Champagne. Please rise.
All right. Heavenly Father, as we gather here today as stewards of this parish, grant us the guidance and clarity to work with integrity and compassion. May our decisions be just, considerate, and in the best interest of all our community members. Amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. And
Ms. Smith, may we get a roll call, please?
Yes, sir. Mr. Amity,
Here.
Mr. Champagne, Mr. Hamner, Mr. Babin, Ms. Chauvin, Mr. Trusclair, Mr. Pleasure, Mr. Harding, Mr. Voisin. Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum present.
Thank you, ma'am. Approve the minutes of the regular council session held on June 12th, 2024. Moved by Mr. Harding. Second by Mr. Wazan. Members vote your machines. 9 yeas, 0 nays, motion carries. Distribute the minutes of the regular council session held on June 26, 2024 has been done. Approve accounts payable bill list for 7/1/2024 and 7/8/2024. Moved by Mr. Wazan, second by Mr. Pleasure. Members vote your machines. 9 yeas, 0 nays. Item 1, public wishing to address the council. Mr. Philip Smith, a Houma resident, wishes to address the council regarding drainage. Is Mr. Philip Smith here? If you'd please come to the podium and state your name and address for the record, sir.
Philip Smith, 3535 Grand Caillou Road. That's Philip Smith, 3535 Grand Caillou Road. Not sure how to start with this. Basically, I'm trying to figure out who does the performance evaluation on the drainage department. Because I've been dealing with an issue since 2020. I've spoken to numerous people. Danny Babin in 2020, Carl Day, 2020, Mike Toops, 2020, David Rome in 21, Jeanne Bray, Capital Projects, also, and still got a problem. My yard floods, my neighbor's yard floods. Who do I have to speak to find out who does their performance evaluation? Because they're failing for sure.
Well, sir, I'd imagine that the performance evaluations are done by someone in the administrative team. Mr. Noah Lerat.
Yes, sir. Thank you. As the chief administrative officer, that would fall under me. I would be directing or working with the director to perform those evaluations. Is there anybody in particular? Is it just the drainage department?
Yeah, pretty much. I don't know who's in charge. I don't know if it's David Rome or anything, but I did speak to him also, and that was in 21. And my yard and my neighbor's yards still flood. The drainage ditch that goes under the highway is partially plugged because both my neighbors, they flood across the street from me. They flood simply because the water's not going under the highway. And it does, when it does, it takes all day. So I don't know what else to do. This has been ongoing for like more than 4 years now. You would think by now something would have gotten done with the people that I've spoken to. I've even spoken to the DOTD. And where else do I turn besides you people?
Mr. Smith does have a good point. That is a highway managed by DOTD, including that subsurface drainage. And we have a meeting with the DOTD in the next 2 weeks, and I'm gonna add this to the agenda and bring it up. We had a similar issue with a culvert on the Bayou Black Road, which is state highway, that we looked into and made sure that wasn't clogged. So I will make sure that we address that. with DOTD in a couple weeks.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
thank you.
Mr. Smith, why don't you give Mr. Lerat your contact information? That way, if he finds something out, he can update you on it, if you don't mind.
Don't mind one bit. I got a pen and paper right here.
Thank you, sir. Item B, in accordance with Section 2-07E of the Terrebonne Parish Home Rule Charter, the public will be heard and can speak for 3 minutes on any matter related to parish government without discussion or questions and answers on non-agenda items. I have a couple speaker cards. Ms. Talisha Clark would like to speak on housing. Ms. Clark, if you would come to the podium and give your name and address for the record.
My name is Talisa Clark, address 134 Morrison Avenue. I'm here before you all tonight in reference to our public housing. These are photos that is despicable. I see your faces, and yes, I was applaud. I want to also say, during the course of our reunion, Mechanicville family reunion, how I personally had the opportunity to have a conversation with my parish president, constituent, and he has vowed to walk hand in hand with me. I'm ready to exercise my human rights. This is where I am from since I've been in Terrebonne Parish. And I want you all can pass the photos around. This is despicable. And I am asking tonight that board that governs the housing authority be revamped. That board needs to be recalled simply because they're not doing their just duties. This is not allowing the residents of this parish to, one, be able to live safely and decently. When you look at this is a hazard. The grass is above the doors and windows, you guys. This is ridiculous. It's redundant. I'm sorry. I want you to look at this. Why did it take 3 years for the housing authority to now begin tarping roofs of the habitated housing? We have homelessness at a high rate in this parish. We've never seen people staked out sleeping on baby mattresses in front of our stores. We can't shop in peace anymore in this parish because of this problem. All of you, everyone across this panel, I personally hold you all to do your duty. You have constituents in this parish. This caused rodents in our communities. You have people sleeping in these units that's not paying. You have 3 tenants in Senator Circle. Bayou Towers is in District 2, Senator Circle, District 1. I challenge you all. Take a touring of Senator Circle, Bayou Towers. Who's paying to keep those lights on at Bayou Towers that has not been occupied since Hurricane Ida? Who's holding that bill? Are we paying that bill? Who's paying that bill? The lights is on and not one body in that building.
Hang on, Ms. Clark. I have a motion to extend by Mr. Babin, second by Mr. Harding. Members, vote your machines. Just means that 3 minutes went up. We're going to give you another minute.
I appreciate it.
All right?
I ask this council, along with our parish president, to write a letter on behalf of the citizens of this parish to Housing and Urban Development, which I too sat on that board. I look to have my parish continue to be the beautifying parish that it can be. This is unacceptable and I will not tolerate it. I'm asking you to do a duty, but I am going to do my duty as a citizen of this parish. I will be writing to Morgan Williams, who's also over housing. So some people will need to answer his questions. I'm asking for an internal investigation. You have a full staff, no tenants at these sites, grass above the windows, above the doors. How do you earn your paycheck? Why are you sitting there collecting a paycheck? You don't have tenants, and it's obvious you're not cutting grass. So how are you making your money? That's my time.
Hang
Any
on just a
questions?
second, Ms. Clark. So just for the record, Terrebonne Parish Council doesn't operate those two facilities. That's a federal department, the federal housing. But Mr. Bergeron would like to make a comment, so I'll let him, President Bergeron.
Yeah, so just for clarification on that board, they are parish president appointees, all appointed prior to my term. And the only way to remove board members is because of cause. That being said, we've been working with the Housing Authority since I took office. We actually just recently condemned Bayou Towers. We're in the process of doing the same inspection on Senator Circle. Unfortunately, FEMA treats Senator Circle as individual cases, so you're looking at 100, 120 individual cases there. But we are pushing on the Housing Authority to demolish everything that can and or should be demolished and to come up with a plan. We've sent a letter to the Housing Authority that we want to understand what quantity of residents can come back, if they come back or when they can come back. And from there, so that deadline I want to say is the end of August and the end of September for a deadline for a plan to what is going to look like to put those residents that can come back and have the opportunity to come back into housing and how quick that can happen. So just for clarification.
Okay, Mr. Pleasure.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ms. Clark, I do understand how you feel, but most importantly, we need to understand that, well, first thing, the grass, the way it looks, I reached out to Housing Authority, and I can assure you, the grass is going to be cut pretty quick. I can assure you that, okay? Secondly, I think everybody needs to understand that the Housing Authority, we can't regulate their day-to-day operations on what they do and how they do it. It's a federal government deal, and that will be communicated, I'm sure. But at the same time, I understand, and I can assure you, the way it looks today, they're going to work on it.
It has looked like that 3 years, sir.
Absolutely.
And I understand, and I hope I'm not out of order, but with all due respect, unless you have lived there, I heard my parish president talk about condemning and tearing down. No, absolutely not. I take a stance against that because prior to now, a lot of those units were habitable, and now many of them is inhabitable. And I do understand. No, you are not governed to run their day-to-day operations. However, you all have a duty. You have constituents in your districts, and nothing has been done prior to this date. You didn't need to call housing authority to cut the grass had they been on top of it prior to now. That's my time. Y'all have a good day.
Mr. Charles Clare?
Yeah, I think I read into some of Ms. Clark's comments. I think one of the things she's asking for that we can give her is a letter from the council stating our concerns and objections to the way those facilities are maintained or handled at this time. So that's, and they've said it before, that's pretty much the extent of what we have authority of, but we definitely can do that.
Right.
And I'm in favor of it, getting the administration to draw up a letter and a resolution to send to HUD, and I'll definitely support that. Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Charles Clare. Mr. Harding?
Yes, Ms. Clark is, she lives in Morrison, and I live on Stovall Street, and she's one of my constituents. And I'm sure some of you that are out there know that the can is so far down the road you can't hear it. This is not my first time to actually discuss this topic and the circumstances that's around this particular topic. I've been to several meetings, which we have been to the meetings together. I know we don't have any jurisdictions per se, but I've asked for HUD, Housing Authority, to come in attendance here on numerous occasions. I've been to them. All we wanted was a report. That's what we were looking for. I can understand the circumstances where they had to pay so many millions of dollars to get a roof on it, how long it takes them to board it up, those things such as that. I know they had some squatters that they had some legal things about that. But as for being in Terrebonne Parish, and I think I had a conversation with a gentleman, and let me shorten this up, just the other day. Even though it is a federal funded program, it sits in Terrebonne Parish.
Thank you.
That is our power. That letter is our power. The appointment by the parish president is our power. Now, if you get down to that point, we go to court for a lot of things. We have legal representation over here with a whole slew of people that go along with her. Now, if we go down that road, we can go down that road. But then all of the things that are being said, some of the things are not understood and have to be brought to the public. There are some things that are a part of the HUD side that I do understand. But then most importantly, I know for Mr. Pleasure, Central Circle is in District 1, and the high rise is in District 2. So we feel you on that, and we welcome the support from the other 7 members of this council. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Harden. Mr. Parish President.
Yeah, I just want to clarify when it comes to the demolition or condemnation of those buildings, that's only based on buildings that go against code that are uninhabitable. So based on what we've been told and as we understand through the HUD process, nothing's going to happen with building anything new until decisions are made on what we currently have. So based on building code, the Bayou Towers has been condemned. It is uninhabitable and must be torn down. The process is going to happen for Center Circle on each individual building on whether or not that building should stay or should be torn down based on fighting against building code and being uninhabitable. But based on what both HUD and the Housing Authority are telling us, nothing new is going to happen. Things are having trouble being maintained due to the fact that all these other decisions have to be made. We have sent 2 letters just to make sure everybody's on the same page. One being the letter we sent on the condemnation of that building, and the other being on the plan for us to let us know what's going on, when it's going to happen. And I can guarantee to our council and to our residents that we're going to do everything we can within our power to make this happen faster. And so I'm committed to that. We have a housing crisis. I've been talking about it for almost 2 years now. We need to find housing for our residents, and that is an utmost priority of mine to get that done. And I can guarantee you, like, if those houses can be inhabited, let's make that happen also. So that's what we're trying to understand. How many residents have the opportunity to come back, and what does it look like to fill those housing needs of those that have left and those that are here that are still not able to be housed here? And so if there's any other questions, or like I said, we can talk
Question
more.
is, on the 16th, are you willing to still stand side by side with me and take down, as we both discussed, that I am going to protest? And I can tell you that I am going to stage a protest. We are calling, the people are calling for the resignation of that board that governs the housing authority that is appointed under your administration. You gave me your word, and I look forward to it. Nothing like citizens walking hand in hand with the president, parish president. I think that way we'll be headed in the right direction.
And to also clarify too, I want to say this with HUD, we've gotten some Congress people involved to push on HUD, as we do have a lot of finger pointing between the Housing Authority and HUD, of this one waiting on that, or this document's doing this and not doing that. And so that's why we came back and said, we want plans by these dates so that we can let everybody know what's gonna happen, what the opportunities are, and to get something rolling, because I agree, this has been way too long.
Over 3 years. One last thing also with the coming down of Bayou Towers. It is my prayer. My heart and soul rest in Senator Circle because I once resided there. But I am a homeowner in District 2. I pray that you all, prior to tearing down Bayou Towers, do quality air control and notify that community properly because that building has been up for quite a long time. Formaldehyde and all those other things, you'll be killing off a community. And that is my point. I really want to make sure everything is done by the book and everyone is made properly aware.
And I can guarantee that also, that when it comes to demolition of the building, we know this probably asbestos-related items, that all that's handled at all the proper legal channels to get that building demolished at a level that it needs to be.
If
Mr.
no other
Harding?
questions, anyone wants to see the pictures, I do have them. You're definitely welcome to view them.
You got something? You good?
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh, you turn yourself off.
While she's doing that, and in reference to her last statement, in attending those meetings, I think also the parish president, Noel, and I, and Mr. Pleasure had met with those folk. And it is a tedious process, and we were into a situation where we were actually trying to get all the problems ironed out in reference to whether to tear it down, to rebuild it, confrontation between the insurance company and HUD itself. We had to get all of those things, environmental studies and this, that, and the other. The other thing in reference to the Senator Circle, that which I've learned also, is whether it would be feasible to elevate the houses, tear down the houses, how many units can be rebuilt, just like the parish president said, they have to handle each one of those units individually. So we want to also, as we go forward, we want to be positive in reference to that. There has been some consideration, the possibility of looking up new location for a similar facility. Of course, sometimes we may be fixed on one particular area, but then better is better. The same circumstances with the high rise. One thing about the high rise, there are some circumstances where to afford those people that are elderly and physically challenged, we have to have them in close proximity of access to busing, certain facilities such as healthcare and all of those things too. So those things have been discussed, but I do agree with you that we have gone down this road too far, and we should have had an opportunity. I requested her to come to this arena because I've been to theirs to just give us a sometime just something to go on, and somehow or another, I think because of legal things that were involved, they did not attend. So I'm letting it be said again, along with you and everyone that's here, the invitation to you guys at the Housing Authority, HUD, and everybody, the invitation to come to Terrebonne Parish within the council and address some of these issues that are being talked about. The invitation still stands. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Harding. Thank you, Ms. Clark, for coming tonight. And I think you'll see some things, get done.
That's all right. I'll definitely be back.
We'll definitely get a letter from this council out to the Housing Authority as well.
I appreciate you.
Yes,
Thank you.
ma'am. Our next speaker card is Ms. Emma Deggs. If you could please state your name and address for the record.
Hello, my name is Emma Deggs. My address is 205 Riley Drive, Houma, Louisiana, 70363. I am here again to get some help. We have, instead of improving our subdivision, and with it looking like it looked, everybody comes in and drops off junk. Yes, You have a trailer in there with the electricity has been taken out of the trailer. The house there's no roof on it. And this has been going on since Ida. I've been to the embankment office. I've gone everywhere I was told to go, and not one single thing has been done. Nothing. You have houses over there that needs to be torn down. You have the people are coming in there, one guy just dropped off a shed and set it up. But to come, okay, yes, I'm here. Every chance I get, I'm here. But then we need somebody to answer some of our problems. You can't, it doesn't do us any good if we're gonna come up here meeting after meeting and nothing happens. Nothing. You have lots there that the grass have grown up taller than the houses. It's been reported, but nothing has been done about it. We have ditches that needs to be cut. They're not worried. No one is worried about it. But I've been to the office down there, and I waited to see the president. I waited for about 35 minutes, and then they told me he had left. He had to leave. And not just one time. I think it was 3 times, but I know it was more than one time. And I haven't heard not one thing from the president or what they planned on doing for us. What do we need to do to anything else to get things moving to help us in Paragon Park subdivision? We are taxpayers. We have a wonderful subdivision, but it needs to be cleaned up. And I really would appreciate it if we will appreciate it. If someone would take the time out to come and look and help us. It's just not right for either. It's been what? I started this with Ida, and nothing has changed. Nothing in our subdivision. So I need someone to tell me how long will it take? Because I will be back.
Mr. Lerat?
Thank you, sir. We will absolutely look at that subdivision for you, ma'am. And we're gonna assess that, and like you said, we'll go take a look, and if it needs to be cut, it's gonna be cut.
Okay, and then we have some houses in there that needs to be taken down.
Okay.
We have one that's currently on the condemnation list that's coming up right now. I'm not sure how many others are listed on there in the backlog, but we can certainly check on that and see if there are other addresses that are there, and if not, get inspections done.
Okay. We really need it done, sir. We really do.
It's in Dularge,
Yes, it is.
Riley.
Riley Drive. That's Paragon Park subdivision.
Mr. Pleasure?
The properties that you're talking about, Ms. Diggs, is, it's Donald Drive. There's 2 properties. One's on Donald Drive at the head of the street. That one is on the condemnation list, currently, to be, demoed. And I think that's, we're gonna approve that. And the other one that you're talking about with the trailer that's in the yard, that's something that I kind of inherited, and I made proper notifications on my part to see what we can do about that. So, in the ditches, that's on both sides, on Donald and Riley Drive,
Right.
if you'll agree with that. And the gentleman, he did clean, as you're aware, and you brought it to my attention, the cars and all that's gone. But since then, he's put a
Yes, sir.
shed there.
Put a shed on there.
Correct. And just hope that we can get a little relief from our planning and zone department to take care of that. And I appreciate that you came out and you shared this with us. You put it on more ears, maybe we'll get something done.
I hope so,
Absolutely.
because this is the only place we can complain about this. And it's not fair that nothing is being done about it.
Mr. Bergeron.
So would like to kind of clarify when we talk about, I guess, nothing being done, the fact that we have stuff in the condemnation process, and I was gonna look up the time frame, and Chris can maybe share on average condemnation process, 30 days, 60 days, depending on if we find property or not, the owner and everything else. And Chris can clarify once I get done, but I know sometimes it looks like nothing's happening, but that didn't mean that nothing's happening. And I know the fact that we have some in condemnation does lend to that. As far as meeting, I don't know how I got out without you seeing me, because I can't get out of here without getting in front of the public in some way, shape, or form between the 7th floor, the 2nd floor, and to the parking garage. So unfortunately, a lot of times I'm still booking 2 weeks out. But as I've been telling all our residents, you give me a picture, you give me an address, I'm gonna get it to the right team. And a lot of times it could be addressed with them quicker than even having a meeting with myself. And so just make sure if you come visit, and this is to everybody, you come visit, whoever you talk to, give them an address, give them your name, give them your phone number. And a lot of times it might go directly to the department that needs to handle it, so they can start addressing it, so that I don't hold up the process of having to sit down and meet with somebody. My goal is to make sure issues get addressed timely and efficiently, and that's what we've been doing for the last 6 months. So I just want to share those couple notes, and I apologize you had to sit around and wait. I wouldn't think that anybody would have you do that. So I'm gonna make sure that our team understands that we don't get people to sit around and wait. So we don't want anybody to do that, honestly. So, Chris, if you want to share.
Well, we had some pictures that our councilman showed. And as you can, from what I'm saying, nothing has been changed. It was showed to the government, parish government. And there's nothing that has been done with it. As a matter of fact, it's worse now than what it was when we took the pictures.
Mr. Pulaski.
So, with respect to condemnation, so yes, we do have the Donald Drive structure on the agenda for July 23rd. So when those are condemned, they have typically the property owners have 30 days to demo them, and then if not, then the parish would go in and do that. We do have at least one other open tall grass violation on Donald Drive. But
Yes,
obviously, from the sound of things, it looks like there's a lot more.
it
So
is.
what I can commit to doing is having our inspectors go out there and document, all of the nuisance abatement violations in a particular area. So we have Donald Drive, we have Riley Drive. And then that way, we can at least get that started so that all tall grass and derelict structures can, get onto the proper agendas to be dealt with. Now, it is a process. Condemnations can take anywhere from 6 months to a year in some cases to demo, depending upon, what the situation. Every case is different. Some have unique circumstances. Even tall grass violations can take anywhere from 2 to 3 months by the time you go through the full process, because it is a due process. We are required by law to provide the property owner with notice of that. We can't just go out and start cutting grass. Now with the shed, what street is that shed on?
It's on Donald Drive.
It's on Donald. Okay.
It's in the second block.
Second
It's
block.
the first lot in the second block on your right.
Okay. All right, so I will also have, I don't see anything in the in our permitting system to even indicate that there's a stop work order. So that, because that's what the process would be. We get a report about an unpermitted structure. Inspector goes out, issues a stop work order, and that's how it shows up in the system. I'm not seeing anything like that. So we'll definitely be sending somebody out to check that out as well.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Next item is 6:30, public hearings. Item A, an ordinance to amend the zoning map of the parish of Terrebonne so as to rezone from R1 Single Family Residential to R3 Multifamily Residential, North Portion Lot 17, Block D, Mechanicville Subdivision, 135A King Street, Houma, Louisiana, Terrebonne Parish, Ernest Davis, applicant. First call for public comment. Second call for public. Third and final call for public. Oh. Please state your name and address for the record.
Ernest Davis, birthday April 5th, 1954.
Yes, sir.
I'm trying to see if I can get my lights on my trailer on 125 King Street.
Sir? Say that again.
125 King Street.
All right, what about it, sir?
I mean, I come to see when I'm going to get my lights on over there, 135 King Street.
We couldn't answer that, sir. That's the utilities department.
Huh?
Mr. Pleasure?
You're Mr. Ernest Davis,
Yes.
correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I guess to make sure that these guys, everybody's clear, you're looking to see if we can assist you in, or you're asking when can you get your utilities turned on? Okay, so I'm taking it that, well, I know that you have to go through this process first, and then, once this process is complete, then you'll be able to notify the folks that are gonna be bringing your modular home out there, and then work with energy, and then they'll be putting it on for you. So this is just to get your property rezoned for us to put the trailer there. Yes, correct. So I tell you what, I'll get your number before you leave, and I'll help you out with that.
All right.
All right?
Okay.
All right, easy enough. You can give it to the lady right here on the end. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Pleasure. All right, so third and final call, public. Have a motion to close by Mr. Pleasure, second, Mr. Harding. Members, vote your machines. Nine yeas, 0 nays. Public hearing is closed. We have a motion to adopt by Mr. Pleasure, second, Mr. Harding. Members, vote your machines. 9 yeas, 0 nays. Ordinance is adopted. Item B, an ordinance to amend the zoning map of Terrebonne, of the parish of Terrebonne so as to rezone from R1 Single Family Residential to R2 Two-Family Residential, Lot 13, Block 1, Richard Subdivision, 2601 Payne Street, Houma, Terrebonne Parish, Louisiana. Shanita Watkins, applicant. First call, public. Second call, public. Third and final call, public. Have a motion to close by Mr. Pleasure, second by Mr. Harding. Members, vote your machines. Nine yeas, 0 nays. Motion to adopt, Mr. Pleasure, second, Mr. Harding. Members, vote your machines. 9 yeas, 0 nays. Motion, the ordinance is adopted. Item C, an ordinance to enact a new section 28-82 in Article 4 of Chapter 28 of the Terrebonne Parish Code of Ordinances to recognize the Houma Restoration District, create an overlay district encompassing the Houma Restoration District, to adopt and enact regulations for uses and for vacant commercial properties within the district. First call, public. Second call, public. Third and final call, public. Motion to close, Mr. Babin. Second, Mr. Champagne. Members, vote your machines. 9 yeas, 0 nays. Motion to adopt, Mr. Babin, second, Mr. Champagne, and Mr. Carl Harding on the topic for discussion.
Yes, before we vote, there's some things, and there are a number of things that actually come before the council since I've been up here. And somehow or another, I do not actually try to stop the public from having an opportunity to come before the mic. This is something that I feel when we get to this point and the public don't come, brings me to the position that I am in right now, because oftentimes the information that we need to get out there, somehow or another is not getting out there, or people from the public are not showing an interest in it. So to start off with, I'm glad Mr. Lered, he's always here, and I'm glad that Mr. Chris Pulaski is here in reference to this particular thing this ordinance that we are about to partake in. The first thing I would have to ask about this, and my colleagues, as you may have found or may not have found in the backup, is that this particular ordinance that was HRD. The district goes from Morgan Street to Grand Calle on both sides. Okay. Does this district incorporate or include, this ordinance include commercial property and residential property? It does not. Mr. Babin, you want the light? I'm gonna talk after you then.
It specifically says in the ordinance, and for vacant commercial properties. I don't think it can be written any more succinctly than that. And none of the backup I saw said anything but vacant commercial properties. So that's,
Okay, so I can talk now?
Yeah.
Okay. So as we go into our backup, Mr. Davis just came here, and we have a problem throughout Terrebonne Parish of nuisance abatement. This document, the director is who? That's in this document in the backup. The director is who? Mr. Chris Pulaski. Mr. Chris Pulaski heads the Planning and Zoning Department. There are certain things that are in here that is the responsibility of Mr. Pulaski, such as, let's get a little more organized in this. So what I'm saying here is that he's already overloaded. And I'm seeing with this, HRD is gonna overload him even more than what he is, in my opinion. There are terms that are in here, and I'm concerned because somehow or another, I don't want the little man that shines shoes over there at the corner of Morgan Street and Main Street to get caught up in here, because it may say commercial in some aspects of here, but then there are other aspects that I found that is saying other entities and other related residential activities. So when you actually try to incorporate, I do not want the individual that's shining those shoes over the corner of Morgan and Maine to get caught up in this. So here we are. We have the director. You have the word hearing. We have the word department. Department is planning and zoning. My point that I'm trying to get here, and having the director again, the owners of the property, says owners of the property means any person, agent, firm, partnership, limited liabilities, corporation, or other entities, okay? You come back and says structure, and below structure, I'm on page 2, for those of you that in your backup. Let's go straight and cut through the field and says, page 2, number 10. Vacant structures mean that all active, lawful, commercial, and residential activities has cases and responsible to appear to in cases to continue in the periods of 180 in 80 days. So some of the things that we actually trying to implement here, with HRD, I think what's happening, we're actually giving an opportunity with HRD through our employee, Mr. Chris Pulaski, to head this up to actually do some work for you guys. And I've asked for us from up here for us to revamp our own nuisance abatements. Okay, there are things in here I want my colleagues to understand. There is up to a $10,000 fine to anybody that falls within this window, this net. $500 a day. You have to apply a $75 fee. We don't do that in Terrebonne Parish, and that's in Terrebonne Parish, and we levying fines. And I don't know if these people, these owners of this, and I want to make sure the residents are not in here, that they know what they're doing. I have a lot here, and I actually wasn't actually agitated. I was just actually disrespected. I was going to be a little bit different in my approach to this. But I think that what we should do is the fact that send this back to committee. Look at this and decipher this much better than what we are. I can't see having folks that are coming within this district coming under a circumstance where they're going to have to be subject by our person that we put out there to a $10,000 fine. And that's only for certain people. Once I regroup, I open up to anybody else that want to respond to what I'm saying. I'm not finished though.
Mr. Pulaski?
Mr. Harding, what on page 2? What was it that you were referring to? Which item?
Well, you have the definitions. So
Yeah.
you look at, you are the director. You are an employee of Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government. And some of the duties that you're going to be doing with this particular board are the same duties that you should be doing or could be doing with consolidated government.
Right.
All right. And so we actually assisting them. It's just like it says department on page 2. It says Planning and Zoning Department, Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government. The director of Planning and Zoning of Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government. It defines structures. It defines the violators. Violators mean person, natural or judicial, would have funds liable for violations and orders to correct violations in a written decision by the Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government as directed by this section. So some of the things that you as an individual associated with this particular board would augment our ability to make it fair. Because then it becomes one individual that represents Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government, allowing the people that falls within this net between Morgan Street and Grand Caillou Road to be handled by this board and your actions. It also states that it should have an attorney. It doesn't say what attorney. It's happening in Terrebonne Parish. We're paying an attorney. So I just want you guys to look at enforcement penalties. You even have, and here it also states that the 32nd Judicial Court would be involved with this. So I'm only trying to say, look at this, make sure the public understand what we put before them. Look, I'm fine with it if it goes there. I'm not a property owner. I don't own a business. But my job is to make sure that we're going to be fair up here, especially when we overloading this man right here, and we got a lady back there saying she need grass cut, and everybody's saying that we got all these houses that are deplorable, and then you putting something else on him without any scope, then we're not really realizing that we overload him even further. So if he's going to take his department and use this for downtown development and those situations that they want to actually develop downtown or this particular corridor that they're talking about, that's fine. Another question could be asked to the this particular Mr. Lee Red, you chair the board, okay? Let's ask you this question. Some of the monies that we actually getting or projected to get this particular board has somewhat of an eye on it, okay? There are sections in here whereas you have this particular board also take the funds and use it commercially to improve the economy. Now, am I correct or not correct that you also take the same money and apply this for a facade for residentials? Yes.
Thank you, sir. So let me start with the purpose of the Homo Restoration District. That was founded by Tanner McGee to restore the area that you mentioned, Councilman Harding, and to provide for economic development, historical preservation. The purpose of this ordinance is to create registration for vacant buildings and to make sure they're maintained properly. The registration is twofold because, like you mentioned before, we do have grant programs with the HRD to facilitate the renovation of buildings to help property owners. So the registration is the key part of this ordinance, which has been done in New Orleans, it's been done in Lafayette, it's been done in Baton Rouge, and the purpose is to restore. The purpose is not to penalize particularly residents. This is a commercial ordinance for vacant buildings, for safety, for enhancement, for historical preservation. There's no CDBG DR money involved with this at all. The fund that we received was before that. We have no hand in the pot for that money at all. We have a limited amount of funding, which is why it was important for us to partner with TPCG and make sure that we have some ordinances on the books that are not just related to giving out money to business owners, which we do too. So it's a multifaceted approach for the HRD, one being ordinances, two being grants, and three being actual projects. So we do have a limited amount of money. We're trying to use it wisely, and we're trying to do the best we can to restore the area, which was the whole purpose of the formation of the commission. Not penalizing anybody, any residents in particular. That is not the purpose of this ordinance.
Yeah, and another thing that I want to ask, see, I'm just, like I said, I'm just actually looking out for everyone here. There are a number of houses that are within this particular parameter. So how do we shore up one thing and not be guaranteed to shore up the other because our nuisance abatement is overloaded and we can't take care of the dilapidated houses? But do we actually doing the other thing to actually beautify it? The facade thing, that's mentioned too. Facade is fake. So if we're gonna make it assumed to be something, let's go the whole 9 yards and make it be done correctly. So if we're gonna use this gentleman right here, and I think that we relinquishing too much power and authority to some of the citizens, whether they be commercial or residential, because eventually I feel within my own head, it's gonna get to the residential part. So if we relinquishing all the authority to this board, then we don't need to be up here. Because it seems as if, go ahead.
Well, when you're finished.
Yeah, I mean that's what I'm saying. I can understand the progress, but I'm struggling with this. I'm really struggling with this because it just seemed to be something about it just ain't right with me.
So this proposed ordinance is an overlay district. It's in the zoning. So that means the enforcement of it is per the zoning. I mean, we've talked, when we first introduced this, I think we were having a conversation about creating similar ordinances in other areas of the parish, and that's fine, but if it's not in the zoned areas, then overlay districts aren't gonna mean a thing because they wouldn't apply. Because it's in zoning, it carries a little more weight with it, right? So that's why it came off of HRD, of the Homer Restoration District Board, and they asked the parish to partner up, and we need some help with the enforcement side of this thing. Now, you'll see in the ordinance towards the end, there's items in there about prohibited uses. Okay, that's more of your traditional zoning, land use, that kind of thing. We have other overlay districts, Martin Luther King, West Tunnel, Bayou Gardens, Val High, South Hollywood Road. And those have different zoning restrictions and regulations than other zoned areas of the parish that are even zoned the same. So it kind of sets its own little pocket of zoning specific to this particular area. I think that's pretty clear cut, right? The part that, from what I'm hearing, seems to be the major concern has to do with the vacant property registration. Now, it is intended that that vacant property registration is only applicable to commercial structures. Now, you've heard me up here every time we have a condemnation hearing, communication is the key. If we communicate with those property owners, a lot of these discussions get shortened. And that's really when we talk about the registration. That's what it is that that property owner designate a point of contact for us. I mean, we don't want to sit there and you know, hit people up with fees or fines or whatever. That's not doing any good. What we're trying to do is find out, okay, what is your plan for the structure, and find out who it is that's in charge of that, so that when funding does come available, whether it be through a facade grant that the HRD has or the Downtown Development Commission has or some other form, that we know who we can pick up the phone and contact to say, hey, that building that you have on Main Street, we know that this is your plan for it, or we don't know but here's some potential funding source for you. That's the real intent behind that. I mean, the
Well, and
shoe
my
shine
point,
shop at Morgan and Maine. I mean, I love that. I mean, I wish we had more shoe shine
Well,
places around town.
my point also is the fact that we up here and we've been crying about how we put teeth in our nuisance abatement thing. So we're gonna do it for downtown. We're not gonna do it for Miss Diggs down Raleigh Drive.
Well,
So we
Mr.
need
Arden,
to-
we have hundreds of condemnations, and nuisance abatement has looked at Main Street and the downtown area every bit as hard as everywhere else in the parish. I mean, yeah, we have hundreds of them, and most of them are not downtown.
Yeah, and I just want
it's
to
a big
make sure
parish.
is the fact that we're using. Well, I wouldn't say we're using you, but I see you in this. You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So if you're an employee doing just as much work for a board that's outside here, we might as well put the same teeth in our nuisance abatements and stuff like that. Ms. Kim, she's always ready to just do what she had to do. So I hate to bring you in here, but what I'm trying to get is the fact that if you're going to be working for somebody, I would prefer you working for us.
Yeah.
Mr. Badger?
Yeah.
So if you're recommending that we make all property owners register their buildings if they're dilapidated or vacant, we could definitely put that inside the ordinance. I could tell you that we've had conversations every week since I've been in office about changing that ordinance and making sure everything from, can we condemn a place because it's high crime, and going through all the things of constitutionality and everything else that goes with that. So my goal is to present something very shortly on putting more teeth in the nuisance abatement and condemnation, that whole process. In fact, today, I'm asking a question going, hey, what if we add this? We want to make sure we cover as many things as possible, that we don't leave anything out, that we have to come back and circle back around a second time. But again, if you think we getting everybody in the parish to register their buildings is something we should add, we could definitely add that to it.
I don't necessarily say that is the issue. I think it's the cost that if you're going to actually, when I first got elected, one of the first things I asked Chris, and I met with Chris, was about is the fact that we had dilapidated buildings, rundown buildings on Main Street. What is to be attracting people here? And I did ask you, I said, well, look, how could we get some of these owners of these buildings, because guess what? They're not doing nothing with the buildings. They're satisfied with the way they're looking. Evidently, if they had to rent them out, they rent them out too high. So they're not making it affordable to go downtown. So what you actually planning to do right now, I know some people that's within this particular corridor is just like a HOA. You don't want your property value to go down. So if your property value don't go down, you can look at Chicago, Seattle, other cities. When gentrification happens to take place, then you can't get people to actually get an investment because they can't afford to invest here. So we don't want to have laws, number one, that goes against the people and the opportunity that they have. $10,000, that's mentioned in here. $500 a day, that's mentioned in here. So we're looking at the opportunity. Are we trying to help the people, or are we trying to only afford an opportunity for certain people? So, man, I just feel as if that we should revamp it And then like I said before, let's revamp the situation like you've actually been saying. I'm not saying $75 per individual. We got taxed for that. So all I'm saying is I just wanted to be looked at even further and just send it back to the committee.
Mr. Leverett?
I really do appreciate your concern, Mr. Harding. I do. If I could, as a member of the HRD, expand this and propose this to all of Terrebonne Parish, I definitely would. But we're confined to the area that we jurisdict. All right, and this was not taken lightly. This was something that the HRD kicked around for over a year. This has been held over. This has been reviewed by the planning committee. This has been reviewed by council. And I remember sitting here and talking about it with the council and people being in favor for it and saying they liked it and that we needed these things. And it's easy to forget that downtown was really run down a couple years ago. We all seen it. It's looking a lot better, but the work still has to be done. This is something that's been done in several places with good results, and I'll stand by it as administration, as on the HRD, and I think this is what we need to do for downtown. I don't think it's anything that's penalizing any resident. I think this helps our residents. I think this helps our downtown. Revitalizing downtown is part of the budget objectives. It's part of the Main Street Master Corridor Plan. It's part of everything that Terrebonne Parish has sought to do for over a decade, and this is what it aims to do. So,
and I appreciate that. I attend your meetings, and man, this is what I'm getting for them. I'm very emotional about this, but I'm speaking for the business people that didn't come up here, the people that's against this that don't come up here, and I'm only just actually my colleagues who may have not read this, actually to get them to look at it even deeper than what they have done. Within 2 weeks or within a month, this is not going to change the ordinance. We can improve the ordinance, and hopefully if anybody else that's downtown. I see a gentleman in here. He rents a place and he has a business establishment. And some of the things that he had actually come to me about with nuisance abatement about a canopy, and that canopy actually discomforted him because he got tagged by certain things. So what a person or a business person could afford to get into. There are other circumstances that are incorporated in government dealing with downtown. I just feel as if that we should revamp it, and because we have the use and understanding of Mr. Chris Pulaski, that we can actually come with a plan, and if anything can change, it can change, or we can come back later on and make a change to this particular ordinance. But as I see it right now, I don't think some of the business people and the people between Morgan Street and Grand Calle Road have actually read this and fully understand what it's actually saying to them until they get that $10,000 fine. Just like some of these people who are losing their property because they can't tear it down behind taxes and those other things that are around here. So when that business owner got a $10,000 fine on him and he's struggling to make it because we don't have no people in home or whatever the situation is, that's the person I'm looking for. I don't mind no improvement. I really don't. I just think we should look at this a little bit further.
Mr. Pulaski, you want to add something?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, with respect to the penalties, I just want to point out the procedure there. Yes, it is in the ordinance that if someone is found to be in violation, that they'll be subject to a fine of not more than $500 for each offense, and each day that violation continues shall be deemed a separate offense, and that the total shall not exceed $10,000 per property. But that penalty is not something that I, as the director, would be able to put on somebody. We would have to have a hearing, and the hearing officer is a practicing attorney in Terrebonne Parish. It's kind of like the ad hoc attorneys that we would have at condemnation hearings. So it's up to that attorney to hear both sides of it. So we would present, okay, this is when they received the letter, et cetera, just kind of give them those kinds of things. But then just as at the condemnation hearings, the property owner would be able to speak to that hearing officer and say, okay, this are the circumstances, et cetera, and then that officer makes a decision. And maybe the decision is, okay, well, you're not going to be penalized. The reason why the 32nd District Court is in here is because with any procedure that we have, there's always an appeal process. And like with the Board of Adjustment, and because this is a zoning matter, the appeal goes to district court, which is quite often the case for zoning versus the council or zoning commission.
Does it also say that the director makes the recommendation? But see,
Yeah,
you make the recommendation, so therefore you alone, who's an employee of Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government, would uh, make the decision to send it to the lawyer. But then you as, the director of planning and zoning, you have a whole staff to actually come to a conclusion to make that so. So now we've actually went away from a whole staff of doing things, but then the responsibility to really look at it and you read it. You're the responsible party.
sure. I mean, we do that now with our condemnation hearings. I mean, every single item, we're giving you guys a recommendation. We recommend you condemn it, give them 30 days. We recommend you continue it. Same thing here. We're giving a recommendation. Hey, sometimes you agree, sometimes you don't. You know?
Mhm. I'm good. I'm not agitated anymore. I see you got other lights up there.
Mr. Babin?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, in the condemnation process, we order 30-second judicial, so to speak. Now, there is beyond us. If they don't like it, they can move it on. But a lot was mentioned about condemnations in this discussion right here. And I'll ask the parish president, are we not as a government and you as the parish president, and I'll use the term in negotiations with South Central Planning to enhance our condemnation process? To, towards the end of the last administration and since this administration has taken over, more money and more people have been hired, more money has been put into the budget, more people have been hired in the planning and zoning department, and we are probably doing at least double and maybe almost 3 times as much as we used to do in terms of condemning homes. The process with South Central Planning would just facilitate that to give us that much more. And if I'm speaking out of turn, I apologize, but this came up at one of our meetings here recently with South Central Planning. So if you could expound on that a little bit, Mr. President.
You are correct, sir.
Again, and I'll just go a little bit further, is that if we hire an outside person, and this is the way it was put up at a meeting that we were, if we have to go out and hire 10 new people to do it, and for some act of God, we catch up on everything, then we don't need those people. We have to let those people go. We also have to pay insurance. We have to pay benefits. If we, for lack of better words, sub it out to another company, they are providing that service to us at a cost, but it's not putting more work on our planning and zoning department. So therefore, they can do more in terms of nuisance abatement rather than just strictly condemnation. So I think we moving forward in this particular process, and this is separate and apart. Not everything that came up here. I mean, we have rules and laws and ordinances on the books right now to cover the majority of this. And I'll just say it. I mean, if legal would want to jump in and answer anything here, you're more than welcome. It's up to you if a direct question needs to be asked. Well, it got off
Ms.
the
Neal?
topic a lot earlier, so.
Thank you, sir. Yes, I'm willing and ready to answer whatever questions, sit down with anybody who needs to sit down with me. I am surprised by tonight's discussion. I thought that this was, everybody on the council liked this. I didn't hear anything other than that. If there's something that we needed to look at before tonight, maybe I could have been better prepared to answer questions, had I had a phone call or a sit-down discussion. I know that the HRD board started working on this before this administration took office. And these regulations were, written and put together and rewritten and revised. The council, I remember that the council received a copy back in February to start reviewing it. And I didn't realize that there were all these questions until just now. I wish I would have been able to address some of them for you, Mr. Harding, for tonight.
Yeah, and my opening statement is the fact that I wanted the people from the public to come out and then address that. That was my opening statement. So when they're not speaking for themselves, I'm actually putting it out there on the table. All of these people that's sitting down here, I'm not angry at them. So I don't have to agree, Mr. Babin, all the time with them. And that as a man, I can actually go against some of the things for the people against them. I don't have to always agree with them. And somehow or another, I just get that feeling. If you put a topic up here, we can vote to go against that, but then I'm only actually trying to look at this and put it to a vote. Either it's going to go to a committee, it's going to go forward. The council chairman is here. We can actually put it to a vote and just go on down the road. And we can actually visit it later on to go there. I'm just opening up the discussion. I'm gonna leave out here with a smile on my face.
Mr. Bergeron?
Yeah, I just want to maybe have some clarification here, but I think by not doing this, we actually delay the opportunity to help business owners that could use some help. I think it's important that we hold our business owners accountable, our property owners accountable. And I think, again, by not doing this, it will delay that opportunity. So I just want some clarification.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Pledger?
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I just want to ask a question that's pretty simple to answer. In regards to this ordinance, we keep mentioning commercial versus residential, whatnots. Does this apply to any of the residents within that quarter of the HRD?
Hang on, Mr. Lerat. We'll let the attorney answer first.
I'm sure Mr. Lerat would have answered the same way I did. No, this was written to apply to commercial.
Only commercial properties?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
You have something to add,
No.
Mr. Lerat? Okay.
right. Just to make sure we're clear, to make it easy, because there's a lot said and I don't want it to get missed. Also, there's, I see some redundancies in this. And page 3, it says voluntary registration, and then page 3, number 2 at the top of the page, says voluntary registration. And then it says number 3, mandatory registration, which number 2 shouldn't even be in there because it's got to be, it's mandatory January 1st, 2025. Right? So, I mean, I think you're given a period of voluntary registration, but then you're going to make it mandatory that everybody is registered. If I'm not correct, please explain that to me. Also,
Tell me where that is.
page number 3, 2 at the top, 2 and 3, voluntary versus mandatory registration.
Yes, sir.
That's almost one and the same. It's
So there is a difference there, sir. And
Okay.
the voluntary registration is inclusive of an owner of any structure, which means that if you are, in fact, an owner of a structure that's not commercial, residential, for instance, you can come and register and get on the list to receive the information that the commercial owners are going to be receiving. But you're not going to be
there's no
subject-
benefit for you.
Well, the benefit would be the information that was
Okay,
passed along.
Okay.
Yeah.
So with that being said,
Yes, sir.
that gives me an opportunity to segue into, you say we can get that, they can get that information if they live within that quarter. Well as we're imposing this, or we're putting this into play, right? Did we, or did HRD reach out to all the business owners, give them some input, give them some ideas, or let them share their views or whatever with HRD as far as implementing this? You know, I'm shoe shine guy on whatever street. Well, I might want to bring something up to you guys to say, well, can we do this? Or, get some other insight on that, not just what, we want to do, because I would hate the fact if I was a business owner within that district to get a violation for something that, well, I didn't even know this was going on. So it's one of those things where we say we don't like big government, but this is a clear example of big government. And I get it. I'm all for it. But at the same time, give those business owners an opportunity to express themselves so we don't have to express their concerns. Because I don't know what the concerns of these business owners might have within that quarter. So that's that's my biggest thing. But outside of that, and again, I actually, I offered the motion for it to even come here. But at the same time, after, digging down into it, I think that the business, in fairness to the business owners within that area, I think they should have an opportunity to have a seat at the table with everybody else while we're making these rules. Not only that, this is just to throw it out there, but 80-20, 80-58, I don't know, park right there what our police department was in, that's within the HRD, right? I'm sure they got a plan with that, right? Okay, I sent them okay, all right. But yeah, I mean, I'm all for the business owners, but I think we should at least include them on our decisions. Thank you.
Mr. Trosclair?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Candace, you just said something kind of, I hadn't caught it until just now with the voluntary registration and mandatory. Michelle, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, excuse me, Candace. Okay. It's, I am old and senile, and I do forget sometimes. Yeah, and I forgot what I was to say. No, the voluntary registration, okay, if let's say, a person has a house inside the district, a residential area that they wanna get on this list, does that require them to show proof of insurance of general liability, to have to post the rest of this ordinance? If you register, does that the way I see it, that puts you into this whole ordinance? So would that happen on that? I just, when you said it a minute ago, it just kind of, I didn't think about it and see it that way before, but now that you explained it the way you did.
Turn your light back on.
So the way that we structured this to read is that the voluntary registrants can come in and put their name up and be on a list. The whole intent of it was that the people on this registration list were going to benefit from a centralized location for all of the grants available, all of the loans and programs available in the area. The idea is eventually to get mail outs to all of these registrants to let them know all of the opportunities they have. And if you look in deeper, when you get into the penalties and to the requirements are all for owners of vacant commercial property. So if there is a violation, the violation is really only for those who own commercial property. So the residents would receive the benefit,
Right.
but would not have to suffer any
But
penalties.
it's just the way it's worded, and like I said, I'm by no way a legal scholar, but it says, it may register for the structure with the department for inclusion in the department's overlay district structure list.
Mhm.
So I'm assuming that this whole ordinance is the structure list.
All of it's gonna be the same list.
Right.
They can put their name on the list and benefit from being on the list.
But, okay, so then say, with that being said, moving down to item 5, section 4, it says proof of general liability insurance in the amount of no less than $100,000.
Mhm.
So are they required to have that? Because a lot of these residents may not even have liability insurance on their properties.
The registration does say that they will include the information, but there's no penalty for them if they don't.
Okay, so, and I guess clear my head up, the present zoning for downtown district doesn't require any liability insurance, does it?
No, I
There's
don't
no
think
zoning
so.
laws that require that.
No.
So this is actually just part of this HRD ordinance that we put together.
Mhm.
So that would not apply to the voluntary registry. That's where I'm going with it. I'm just, it's terminology. Look, I'm not against this at all.
No,
I
those
think,
are all very good questions, absolutely. I mean,
it's mostly about terminology, and I don't, I don't want to get caught up in the backside
Mhm.
because, or somebody out there get caught up. Well, I didn't know I had to apply for,
Mhm.
get insurance.
right. So
And it's also the same thing with
that's right.
with the notification numbers being posted out, but I think that that's only for vacant properties. They have to have the notification.
Right,
contact
mandatory
numbers.
registration is only required for people within the overlay district who have vacant
That's the
commercial
mandatory.
structure.
Right,
That's
correct.
mandatory. If your building is vacant and it's commercial and it's just sitting there,
But
then
the
we want you to
liability
register.
insurance doesn't say it's for property or dwelling or building or
It's for
business.
general, it's just for general liability.
Correct.
If it's vacant, we want to make sure that you
it's
have some
vacant.
type of insurance.
So
on the
any
property.
business in town that's operating now, I doubt there's any of them operating without any liability insurance, but they happen to be, they're not required to get insurance with this.
No, you're right. This is unique to this ordinance, the liability requirement. I can't think of any other planning and zoning requirement that would require the liability insurance.
Mr. Plaska, you want to add something?
Well, I had a question for Michelle. Would it be too much if we were to add the word mandatory registration shall include the following information on item 5? Or would that throw this whole thing into, gotta go
Look, I'm not
back
trying, I'm
and?
not
Yeah, I
trying to
know what you
start this
mean.
by any means. It's just a question I had that
No,
Michelle
it's a good question.
raised up whenever it came
Yeah,
up.
it is a good question. I've answered this question, Chris, about revising an ordinance very recently. The ordinance has to be written as you're gonna approve it, and it's gotta be, published. So, if we want to hold up the ordinance and lay it over as amended, we can do that, like we did with the commercial, rezoning to C3 from, I can't remember, from R1 to C3, like we did last time. We would have to hold it over and go and amend the ordinance and hold it over for another public hearing. I mean, we can always come back and fix it with that language at a later date, which
Yeah.
means we'd have to introduce another ordinance just to fix that one particular section. But there is no penalty for those registrants who are not mandatory registrants. So if they don't comply with that section, they won't be penalized. So there is an opportunity to come back and add the word mandatory, I think, later, and it wouldn't be a problem.
My question's answered, thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Trosclair.
Call the question.
We still have speakers?
Yes.
I was gonna call for question.
Mr. Babin?
Yeah, just a hypothetical question. Under the voluntary and the mandatory, it was said earlier that under the voluntary, they have no penalties, but they get the information about grants and other things that may come along. If a person has a residential structure that he's living in, but it's zoned commercial, he in theory could create a business out of that home by going through a process in the planning commission. So without the information to know about grants that may be available, he's left in the dark. So to me, it would behoove the individual to put his name down on a voluntary thing with no worry about penalty and get the information that maybe down the line, he may want to create a business out of it. So I don't see where it hurts the individual. It only helps the individual to record their name or their address, whatever it's going to require. So again, I think that's the difference between the voluntary and the mandatory. It just provides them with the information that they need, that if they want to plan something different with their property. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Babin. Mr. Bergeron?
Yeah, I just want to clarify, and I confirm with Noah, that letters were sent to all business owners when they started this process. So to say somebody's not going to be aware or somebody's not going to know, we are about 3 years off of audit here, and we need to do some improvements downtown. And anything we do to delay this, we'll do that. It'll delay our recovery. It'll delay the opportunity for businesses to be held accountable. It's way past time for us to get some things going here. I want everybody to keep in mind that this board is appointed by parish president, council, senators, representatives. Like, it's at a certain point, I just wonder if we're not trusting the business owners that are on that board to do what's best for downtown when most of those business owners have their property value affected every day. One of these buildings, one being an example at the corner of Lafayette and Main Street. You just go down further and further of all these buildings that are left to sit. This is actually the quickest infusion of money to allow the opportunity for improvement and progress and change that we desperately need 3 years off of Ida. And so I just want to make sure those points are understood, that this is kind of the opportunity and the chance to really make a substantial change and difference downtown, which we all talk about being the heart of Terrebonne Parish, where the spoken will works out of, to really affect the revitalization, the recovery, and us bringing Terrebonne Parish back and move Terrebonne Parish forward.
Thank you, Mr. Bergeron. Mr. Pledger.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Just for an example, to make sure that I'm clear, and I want you guys to make me understand, but I also want to make the comment, and I want to share, I wish we can have this kind of robust conversation about Grand Caille Road. But anyways,
All about it.
now, if I'm looking at this correct on page 5, in the event that any of the buildings or businesses that's there that are grandfathered in that might not be conforming to the rules or the regulations here, such as, let's use a tattoo shop. There's a tattoo shop on Main Street. If something happens, that business is out of business for any period of time and found to have sustained damages up to 50%, he can't come back as a tattoo shop?
So the answer is they can within a certain time frame. I mean, we have not legal non-conforming. You have legal non-conforming uses, legal non-conforming structures, and generally it's if a business, if a use is shut down, say whether it's a tattoo shop or, I mean, there's some subdivisions, some neighborhoods that have like a corner bar or something like that, right? If it's in a residential area, if it closes down for a year or more, it cannot reopen as that, legal non-conforming use. But if the reason for the closure is, say, a storm or some act of God or fire, then that period can becomes 2 years. So there are certain protections for legal non-conforming status that would be, grandfather, that business would be able to remain grandfathered in. But yes, if say that tattoo shop closes and then a year and a half later another owner comes in and wants to reopen it as a tattoo shop, no, that wouldn't be allowed.
How about that owner that actually was there? If he had, some problems, he couldn't get insurance, he was fighting insurance or whatever it was, could he still come back?
No. Whether it's the same owner or a different owner, that wouldn't necessarily matter. But there are the Board of Adjustment, because again, this is a zoning ordinance. The Board of Adjustment can hear applications or does accept applications, and one of their duties that they perform is interpretation. So if they feel that they should be able to come back, then they could also apply to the Board of Adjustment.
Yeah. Well, how about if that owner, say, wanted to sell it to someone else?
That's fine.
That's fine, and he'll be able to open it up as a
Sure.
tattoo shop?
Sure. So if you own it and you want to sell it to me, yeah, I go and I re-register with Secretary of State and I get a occupational license with the parish sales tax and I get a certificate of occupancy through the permit office for a change of ownership. No problem.
Okay. And lastly, I'd like to, Parish President stepped out, but he mentioned that a year ago, 3 years ago, however long it's been, HRD kind of reached out to all the business owners about this, which I don't doubt that. Did we reach out to them and tell them we were putting this ordinance in place, or give them the language in there, giving them an opportunity to at least, voice their concerns, other than me offering up the motion to bring it to public hearing?
Mr. Learett.
So we reached out as the HRD to every address and a letter to every address in the district when we first opened, stating what our intentions were to do, to draft ordinances, to do grants, to do all these things that we're going to do. We did not send a letter out after we started working on this, but we published our agenda for every meeting this was included on. We every time we have a meeting, we invite the public to come. We've reached out to the public in every way we're supposed to reach out to them as per the law.
Is that all, Mr. Pleasure?
I make a motion that we actually hold this over for 2 weeks, until we get clarification.
So we have a motion by Mr. Harding to hold this over for 2 weeks. Second by Mr. Pleasure. Members, vote your machines. Three yeas, 5 nays, 1 abstention. Motion fails. We have our original motion by Mr. Babin to adopt the ordinance, seconded by Mr. Champagne. Members, vote your machines. Seven yeas, 1 nay, 1 abstention. The ordinance is adopted. Item D, an ordinance to amend the parish code of ordinances to establish a 15-mile-per-hour speed limit zone along Bayou Delorge Road from the end of the pavement south to the end of the road, to provide for the installation of said signs and to provide for other matters relative thereto. First call for public. Second call for public. Third and final call for public. We have a motion to close, Mr. Babin, seconded by Mr. Harding. Members, vote your machines. Nine yeas, 0 nays, motion carries. We have a motion to adopt by Mr. Babin, seconded by Mr. Harding. Members, vote your machines. 9 yeas, 0 nays. The ordinance is adopted. Item E, an ordinance to amend the parish code of Terrebonne Parish to establish a 15-mile-per-hour speed limit zone along the entirety of South Boudreaux Street in Montague, to provide for the installation of said signs and to provide for other matters relative thereto. First call for public. Second call for public. Third and final call for public. Motion to close, Mr. Trosclair. Second, Mr. Babin. Members, vote your machines. 9 yeas, 0 nays. Motion to adopt, Mr. Trosclair. Second, Mr. Babin. Members, vote your machines. 8 yeas, 0 nays. Ordinance is adopted. Item F, an ordinance concurring with parish administration and declaring equipment with a value of $5,000 or greater from the Houma Police Department and disposing of said equipment by any legal approved methods. First call for public. Second call for public. Third and final call for public. Motion to close, Mr. Harding, second by Mr. Babin. Members, vote your machines. 8 yeas, 0 nays. Motion to adopt, Mr. Harding, second, Mr. Babin. Members, vote your machines. 8 yeas, 0 nays. Ordinance is adopted. Item G, an ordinance to amend the 2024 adopted operating budget of the Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government for the following items and to provide for related matters. Dedicated Emergency Fund, $6,226,156. Item 2, Dedicated Emergency Fund, $5,678,450. Item 3, Home Fire Department, $2,367. Item 4, Risk Management Department, $10,470. Item 5, Hazard Mitigation Grant, $10,016,158. First call public. Second call public. Third and final call public. We have a motion to close by Ms. Chauvin. Okay. We'll get to it. Second, Mr. Babin. Members vote your machines. 8 yeas, 0 nays. Public hearing is closed. We have a motion to adopt by Ms. Chauvin, second by Mr. Babin and Mr. Clyde Hamner.
Yeah, is there a way that we can pull item 4 on this ordinance without affecting the other ones? Michelle?
It would affect them all.
And
Thank-
discuss it separate or
Thank you, sir. No,
is
you,
it an all or nothing?
it's an all or nothing. You vote for the ordinance or against it. You'd have to you can discuss it individually, but you can't take the item off of the ordinance.
You can't take the item off the
No,
ordinance.
sir.
Couldn't send it back to committee. Make a motion to send it back to committee.
Can I make a motion to send this back to committee? All right, I'm gonna make the motion to send it back to committee.
So we have a substitute motion by Mr. Hamner to hold this over, send it back to committee. Yes,
Ask a
ma'am.
question. Thanks. I just wanted to, I think Candace and I both want to understand what the issue is.
Well, I have a hard time, I asked this question in the committee meeting. Yeah, this is a $10,000, and that's a small change compared to the, to the size of the budget. But we're adding we're taking that money from the general fund and adding another 10,000 to a department that already has a $12 million budget. I just find it hard to believe that we couldn't have found that small amount of money to do that purchase when we have so many needs across, for that general fund has to cover. This is a small thing, and I'm really just trying to make a point that we move money from the general fund.
It's
Yeah.
not general fund though, sir.
Well, what is it? The fund balance, right?
Correct.
So, and I looked at the notes.
Net
It's
position.
this is in the ordinance. It says it's net of the budget, right, of the risk management budget, but it's going to come from it. It's going to in addition to it. So, and that's my only objection. I'm not against it. The purchase of the item that I understand the need for it. It's just a priority that we have other needs. We can't take care of other things in the parish. To have and that doesn't sound like a lot of money, but it's a $10,000 computer and setup.
No. So so just some clarification. So this is coming from our risk management internal service fund. So it's the risk management department. So that's going to cover all of our insurance premiums. It covers the department to actually run risk management, so salaries and all of that. It is a printer and it is multiple computers. It is not one computer. I think it might be 4 computers for all of them. And the whole reason for the computer equipment is the ones that are in place right now or out of warranty. So yes, it is coming from net position. So that is the ending fund balance for an internal service fund. It is the net position. Is not affecting general fund by any means. When we talk about a $12 million budget, and I know that's how I answered it when the question came up 2 weeks ago, that $12 million budget includes all of the expenses that we have for the insurance premiums and stuff like that. That is not what is specifically for running the risk management department. That is probably with salaries and wages and the few office expenses, maybe, a couple of $100,000. I can get that definite number for y'all later. I can promise you, before we come to this council to do a budget amendment, we try to nickel and dime every single account and do it as a line item adjustment before there. And I can also promise you that if I thought by taking it from the net position, we would put ourselves in a very bad situation moving forward, it wouldn't have come to the council. So that's just to clarify some of that for you.
And I do know you believe that. I do know, and I know you do that. It's just the fact that it's an addition to, after the fact, to a budget that's already been established. And that's my only objection. And I'm sure it's gonna pass tonight, but I just wanted to let my feelings know on these budget adjustments.
So I do have another question. If it would be voted on to go back to committee, are you asking us to put it back on committee without this budget, this line item in this ordinance? Is that what we're asking for?
Yeah, well, that motion failed though, so that's
No,
a
we
moot
never
issue.
voted on it.
We never voted on it.
No second.
We don't have a second
We didn't
yet,
get a
but
second.
It all got interrupted beforehand.
Yeah, we never got a second on that motion, so that motion didn't even fly.
Well, we didn't give it time for a second. All right? So.
No, because we had we interrupted with a question.
Right, before anybody could speak. So we have a substitute motion on the floor. Mr. Pleasure, are you discussing this?
Yeah, I just had a question.
All right, go with your question.
All right, so, and I'm just asking this for clarity. Our risk management department, that's where insurance and all that comes out of, I get it. Now, that's where we had a cost savings because we saved on the insurance that we actually sought out and got this year, right? And with that cost savings, it wouldn't put us in a position to where we don't have to put any more funds in there, or help me understand that.
So, no, sir. And yes, sir. So a little bit of both. So we do have a cost savings. Our premiums are not as high as what we were being told because of the negotiations that they did. That is a specific line item within a specific budget department of risk management. The way that our budget works, it has to be within the same department for us to be able to do that line item. So that's why I couldn't do it as a line item. But when I answered the question as, yes, it helps us, the reason I can take it from that net position and not be concerned about it is because that net position is going to be a little bit higher than what we expected because of those cost savings.
Okay.
Ms. Neal, did you have something?
No, sir.
Okay. So, Mr. Hamner?
Go ahead, Mr. Chairman.
Well, I was gonna say, so Mr. Hamner made a substitute motion. Do we have a second? Seeing no second, that motion fails. All right, Mr. Hamner?
Yeah. Ryan, I have a computer in my office here on the 6th floor. You're welcome to it if it saves us $2,500.
I truly appreciate that. I wish it was that easy. It's truly like IT security reasons. Like these, we're holding a lot of sensitive data on these computers. It's truly making sure we have the most protection on them, and upgrading them was the cheapest way to accomplish that. Okay. So we really looked at everything there, and it was a need. We really feel it's not. There's no other way to get it but to upgrade and purchase a new computer for the people we need.
Okay. And I'm just going to say this. It's $10,000 is nothing in the budget the size of Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government, and in the my point was yeah, I want to start looking at our budget and start looking at ways that we can save money, whether it's 10,000 here or 35,000 there or 150,000, so that we can start prioritizing things that we all need in our districts. You know, one thing is maintenance and general maintenance issues. You know, there's not enough money there to cover that. And it was just kind of a roundabout way of bringing some attention to some issues that are being neglected, that Mr. Harding brought up earlier tonight, you know. So with that, I'm gonna call for question. I don't think anybody, Mr. Bergeron's got.
Mr. Bergeron.
Yeah, I just wanted to add from a IT security perspective, we're talking about a $10,000 investment that could probably save us millions of dollars. Because if our computers aren't up to date, they get compromised, we get ransomware, and that ransoms millions of dollars. And when it's usually, what's usually gonna happen in a government situation, definitely well worth the investment. So I just want to share that part of it to add on to what Ryan said, that's all.
Ms. Malden?
And just one more thing to add to that, this 10,000, even if we were not doing a budget amendment, it could not be used for a road project or a drainage project or a bridge project or a street project. So I just want to throw that out there, that this fund does not have that capability.
I know that. I made my point. So Jason, you said that spending this 10,000 could save possibly $1 million. You threw around the word guarantee earlier tonight quite a few times. Can you guarantee me that and let me spend it where we need it in our districts?
I can guarantee if we don't buy them, we have a high risk of that $1 million.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Harding?
This question actually goes according to where we are right now. Mr. Neal, you remember when I asked you in reference to, and some people thought in reference to how we handle this. Let's say, for instance, if I wanted to put something in here, all healthcare, and put a $100,000 VOS in here. Do we have to? And I think what I asked you was, can we actually accept that this would extract something from this? I think we spoke in reference to that before.
Ms. Neal?
Yes, sir, we did speak about it before. And the answer is when the administration develops and puts the budget up for council to vote on in an ordinance such as this, to do something like that would basically be a line item veto for the council and that would actually give you administrative powers over the budget, which is really reserved for administration. They have to put the budget amendments up for you to vote on, and you can't line item veto anything. You have to vote for or against the ordinance that's put in front of you. And discussions before the budget comes up for a vote is probably the best way to handle the ordinances that come before you for budget amendments.
Yeah, and the reason why I asked the question was the fact that I wouldn't want no one to actually hold other things that are of importance hostage by voting for everything that's in here without excluding those things that are not necessary.
Yes,
And
sir.
that's the point I wanted to bring out to us as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harding.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Neal. So we have a motion to adopt on the floor. Members, vote your machines. Seven yeas, one abstention. The ordinance is adopted. Item H, an ordinance to amend the parish code of Terrebonne Parish by adding to Chapter 18 Motor Vehicles and Traffic, Article 2, Parish, Section 18-27, Vehicles over 10 tons prohibited, to establish a 10-ton weight limit zone on Timberwood Drive and Timberwood Estate subdivision, beginning at Highway 316 for the entire length of Timberwood Drive, to provide for the installation of said signs and to provide for other matters relative thereto. First call public. Yes, ma'am. Please state your name and address for the record.
Ned LaBeouf, 123 Timberwood Drive. I live at the end of the street, and our neighbor across the street, who has a construction company, bought the land across St. Louis Canal, a landlocked piece of property. And since then, he's moved a crane, an enormous crane. They tell me technically it's a drag line. To move it into the neighborhood, they had to take down the street sign, take down the stop signs. That's been in our neighborhood since November. He also has two 18-wheelers and another construction truck in our residential neighborhood. Most of the property in our neighborhood is valued at over $300,000, and we're getting taxed like our property is over $300,000. So we don't want this heavy construction equipment going up and down our neighborhood. Most of us in the neighborhood have been there over 30 years. If we had wanted to buy property on the highway where every neighbor can do whatever they want, we would have done it. We bought a property in a quiet two-street neighborhood, probably 40 pieces of property, so that everybody can walk in the neighborhood, teach their kids how to ride bikes, visit with the neighbors, the whole thing, a nice, quiet neighborhood. And it's been that way for 30 years, till our neighbor moved in. He bought the property across the canal. He wants to put in a bridge. He wants to put his business down the street. So every day, 100 feet from my house, I see this enormous crane, two 18-wheelers and another truck. Supposedly he bought the parish right-of-way behind the cul-de-sac. How he got right to buy the drainage right-of-way, I don't know. But he put gravel there, and he's got construction equipment, including this enormous crane that's been there since November. We would like this weight limit zone for our neighborhood so that our property doesn't go down. And if it is going to be a construction zone, then we would like a refund on all our taxes. We would like to be taxed like we live near Sanford and Son, a salvage yard, because 100 feet from my house, I have a crane and 18-wheelers. So please, if you could pass this ordinance, maybe we could return to being a nice, quiet neighborhood where the grandkids can learn how to ride a bike. And maybe the worst that happens to them is they fall into the ditch. They don't get run over by 18-wheeler. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. LaBeouf. Second call, public. Third and final call, public. Motion to close, Mr. Babin. Second by Mr. Champagne. Members vote your machines. 9 yeas, 0 nays. Motion to adopt, Mr. Babin. Second, Mr. Harding. Members vote your machines. The ordinance is adopted, 9-0. I want to thank you guys for coming out. Just being the council member representing this, we've been battling this for a couple of years now. The issue with the bridge, if I haven't spoken to you, or if you haven't spoken to your neighbors that I've spoken to, is he's within his right to build the bridge if he met all the requirements, which he did. It was an engineered bridge, but he refused to sign the letter of no objection. Therefore, he can't until he does so. As far as the drainage servitude, he does not own that. And what we're trying to get through legal right now is a cease and desist and make him remove all that stone, just to update you on what's currently going through the process. As more things come, I'll be in touch with you all to give you updates. So again, thank you guys for coming out. It's always encouraging to us when the public comes up and speaks on their behalf. That's one of the things Mr. Harding had mentioned earlier. So again, this is now done. Some people ask, why not sandalwood? Well, if he can't get on timberwood, he can't get on sandalwood. So again, thank you guys. Item I is an ordinance to amend the zoning map of the parish of Terrebonne so as to rezone from R1 Single Family Residential to C3 Neighborhood Commercial, lots 6 through 9, Block 4, Crescent Park Addition, 509 Sunset Avenue, Houma, Terrebonne Parish, Louisiana. Southland Dodge Chrysler Jeep LLC applicant. First call, public. Second call, public. Third and final call, public. We have a motion to close, Mr. Babin. Second, Mr. Champagne. Members vote your machines. Nine yeas, 0 nays. Motion to adopt, Mr. Babin. Second, Mr. Hamner. Members vote your machines. Nine yeas, 0 nays. The ordinance is adopted. Item 2, committee reports. A, accept the minutes of the Terrebonne Parish Sales and Use Tax Advisory Board meeting dated June 25th, 2024, and consider ratification of actions relative to the number 1 recommendation to accept the 2023 financial audit report as prepared by Bourgeois Bennett LLC. Number 2, declaring items in the sales and use tax department as surplus property and dispose of the same. Item 3, recommendation to authorize Patrick Amadei, which I'm not related to, except maybe way down the line, and Drew Talbert for special legal counsel for litigation cases. We have a move by Mr. Harding, second by Mr. Hamner. Oh, Champagne. Members, vote your machines. Hang on a second, we do have a light. Mr. Trosclair?
Yes, thank you. Candace, the fees for these attorneys, they're paid for by the state if they would go into litigation? Okay, thank you. Right.
Thank you, sir. So members, vote your machines. Nine yeas, 0 nays. Motion is passed. Item B, accept and ratify the minutes of the Broadmoor Tree Fund Advisory Committee meeting held on July 1st, 2024.
So moved.
Move, Mr. Hamner. Second, Mr. Harding. Members, vote your machines. 9 yeas, 0 nays. Motion carries. Item C, Community Development and Planning Committee, Ms. Chauvin.
Make a motion that the council accept and ratify the minutes of the Community Development and Planning Committee held on July 8th, 2024. And I have 38 condemnation hearings, calling the condemnation hearing on the following: residential mobile homes, residential structures, accessory structures, and commercial structures on Tuesday, July 23rd, 2024 at 5:30 p.m. 2658 Anaheim Drive, 5872 North Bayou Black Drive, 608 Roussel Street, 216A Isle of Cuba Road, 216 Isle of Cuba Road, 4730 North Bayou Black Drive, 217 Hampton Street, 313 Roselawn Avenue, 2602 Bryant Street, 156 Dupre Lane, 8608 Park Avenue, 121 Piping Rock Drive, 5400 Grayson Street, 3626 Thomas Drive, 444 Mozart Drive, 7111 Grand Caillou Road, 114 Donald Drive, 147 Raymond Street, 111 Sterling Drive, 116 Alex Williams Lane, 2604 Bryant Street, 134 Red Street A, 134 Red Street B, 101 Hildigo Drive, 1459 Ellender Street, 202 Waller Street, 2018 East Street, 4505 Avenue J, 5773 Highway 56, 146 Klondike Road, 2626 Bryant Street, 453 Bayou Dularge Road, 225 Tudor Street, 112 Lambert Court, 115 Lambert Court, 149 Morcell Lane, 6489 West Park Avenue, 1006 Clay Street.
We have a motion by Ms. Chauvin, seconded by Mr. Harding. Members, vote your machines. Eight yeas, 0 nays. Motion carries. Item D, Budget and Finance Committee. Mr. Pledger.
Make a motion that the council accept and ratify the minutes of the Budget and Finance Committee held on July 8th, 2024, and I have one public hearing. Consider the introduction of an ordinance amending the 2024 budget of the Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government so as to adjust the 2024 adopted beginning fund balances and the net positions to actuals as per the 2023 audited financial statements, and call a public hearing on said matter on Wednesday, July 24, 2024 at 6:30 p.m.
So we have a motion by Mr. Pledger, a second by Mr. Trosclair. Members, vote your machines. 8 yeas, 0 nays. Motion carries. Item E, Public Services Committee, Mr. Babin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I make a motion that the council accept and ratify the minutes of the Public Service Committee meeting held on July 8th, 2024, and I have no public hearings.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Babin, a second by Mr. Hamner. Members, vote your machines. 9 yeas, 0 nays. Motion is carries. We have no streetlights submitted, so no action is necessary under streetlights. Appointments to various boards, committees, and commissions. A, Recreation District Number 1 Board, one expiring term on 7/10/24. Mr. Timothy Ward expresses his interest in being reappointed. We have a motion by Mr. Harding to open, close, and appoint Mr. Ward. Second, Ms. Chauvin. Members vote your machines. Nine yeas, 0 nays. Congratulations, Mr. Ward. Item B, TGMC Hospital Service District Board has been pulled. Item C, Planning and Zoning Commission, 1 expired term. Applicant must reside in the city of Homa. Mr. Michael J. Billiard submits application and resume for consideration. We have a motion by Mr. Babin to open, close, and appoint Mr. Billiard. A second by Mr. Champagne. Members vote your machines. Nine yeas, 0 nays. Congratulations to Mr. Billiard. Item D, Recreation District Number 6 Board, 2 expiring terms on 7/31/24. Ms. Sonia Nakan expresses her interest in being reappointed. Ms. Wendy Cohen expresses her interest in being reappointed. We have a motion by Mr. Trosclair to open, close, and appoint Ms. Nakan and Ms. Cohen, seconded by Mr. Harding. Members vote your machines. 9 yeas, 0 nays. Congratulations to the both of them. Item E, Children and Youth Services Board, 6 expired terms, each representing one of the following: Department of Children and Family Services, Bayou Area Children Foundation, Gulf Coast Teaching and Family Services, Terrebonne Parish Sheriff's Office, Homa Police Department, and Terrebonne Parish School Board. Mr. Mark Torbert submits application and resume for consideration.
Motion to appoint Mr. Mark Corbett and hold the others over.
We have a motion by Mr. Hamner to open, close, and appoint Mr. Torbert and hold the others over. Second by Mr. Pleasure. Members vote your machines. 9 yeas, 0 nays. Congratulations to Mr. Torbert. Item 5, monthly engineering reports. As per Mr. Trosclair. Second, Mr. Harding. Members vote your machines. 9 yeas, 0 nays. Item 6, vacancies to various boards, committees, and commissions. A, Recreation District Number 2-3 Board, 1 expired term. Coteau Fire Protection District Board, 1 expired term. Children and Youth Services Board, 5 expired terms, each representing one of the following: Department of Children and Family Services, Bayou Area Children Foundation, Gulf Coast Teaching and Family Services, Terrebonne Parish Sheriff's Office, and Homa Police Department. Downtown Development Corporation, 3 expired terms, each representing the following entities: 1 representing the Parish Council, 1 representing the Historical Society, and 1 representing Downtown Merchants. Municipal Civil Service Board, 1 expired term representing the council, and 1 vacancy due to a resignation representing the council nominated by Nicholls State University. South Central Human Services Authority, 1 expired term. Terrebonne Parish Tree Board, 1 expired term and 1 vacancy due to resignation. Veterans Memorial District Board, 1 vacancy due to resignation representing the parish president south of the Intracoastal. TITA, 1 vacancy due to resignation representing the parish president. TGMC Hospital Service District Board, 2 expiring terms on 7/31/24. Item 7, announcements. Mr. Parish President.
Indulge me, I'll have about 60 announcements, should be done in about 30 minutes.
All right.
Sorry, I couldn't help myself. Thursday, July 11th, is a ribbon cutting and reception at Scarlet Scoop at 300 Barrow Street at 6 p.m., put on by Leadership Terrebonne. They repainted that building. And then Sunday, July 14th, Juice Fest in the Courthouse Square at 4 o'clock p.m. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. President. Council members, Mr. Wazan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just like to publicly wish my wife a happy birthday today, and thank you for being so understanding. And I hope you thought about what you want for dinner. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wazan. Anybody, any other council members? Just a point from the chair. For all those out that are watching and listening, please check on your neighbors, especially the elderly, while we're dealing with the summer heat. Make sure that they're okay and they're surviving. If you have to get them a fan or something, because I know we feel it, so I know that they're feeling it as well. But With that, motion adjourned, Mr. Trosclair. Second, Ms. Chauvin. Members, vote your machines.